All right. It is good to be back.
Glad to have you back.
I heard you, they kept you busy last week.
Tried to, yeah. That did a pretty good job, I'd say.
Yeah, here we are. End of 2022. We made it.
Can't believe it. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a while now. Taking the opportunity to wind down a little bit in between the holidays and
Absolutely.
Lab and research and blogging and watching videos. Actually, a lot of good content out there. So
this is the best time of year to do that, I think.
Yep. So, what have you been up to?
Well, I thought, things have been pretty quiet over the last week in terms of the ConfigMgr and Intune community. I think a lot of people are doing what you just mentioned, kind of catching up on, research topics and things like that maybe we didn't get a chance to catch up on throughout the year. And of course, I assume a lot of people spending time with friends and family over the last week, because again, perfect time to do that as well. So I thought for today, for my updates, what I tried to do was sort of go back and pick out a few specific links that I found very useful over the past year, things that we've talked about a few times here on our office hours and throughout our courses and things like that. And just a couple of other little bits of information, that I thought were kind of cool. Some stats, I guess, as it were, from this past year. So I'll go ahead. If you want to share my screen, Johan, I'll share a couple of these links to get started.
I have a deal.
All right, perfect. So one of the top ones that I think we talked about several times here on the office hours especially was the version 8 of the Windows Update Compliance Dashboard from the folks over at MS Endpoint Manager. Last year, they released their community version of their update compliance dashboard, which is using log analytics, and they did a major upgrade to it back in September. Really good stuff. So this was a favorite of mine. Also, over on the MS Endpoint Manager blog is the Intune Debug Toolkit put together by several people throughout the community. We've again talked about this quite a few times as well. A lot of useful tools for troubleshooting things related to Intune, app installs and policies and autopilot readiness, things like that. And then, of course, a big one this year. I know you put a lot of effort into this, Johan, but your Geeks Guide to Windows 11 Deployment, just a great free ebook that was released back in August that kind of walks through how to deploy Windows 11. So really good stuff. Those were just three of some of my, like I said, some of my favorites from this year, but it's hard to pick out just three out of the, several hundred other blog posts and videos and even just tweets that I've seen over the past year that were very helpful. Some big announcements from this past year. We had Microsoft released Auto Patch. We've talked about that a little bit on here. The new Microsoft Store integration, that's definitely gotten some screen time over the last month and a half or so. Desktop analytics, that retired at the end of last month. Update compliance is in the process of retiring in favor of Windows Update for Business reports. So there's been a lot going on this year. Not to mention, I pulled, this was our first full year doing things together, Johan. So a couple of the stats that I pulled, we did 48 modules of our quarterly trainings on managing Windows 10 and 11 with Intune, as well as our ConfigMgr Ops course. We did 5 sessions at MMS, 5 in-person sessions, might I add. We did our first masterclass together. And as it relates to office hours, if my counts are correct, this is the 58th episode of Office Hours and the 24th that we have done together. So just a very productive, awesome, busy year, I would say.
That is downright awesome. Yes, indeed. Good stuff.
Yeah. So those were some of the things that I came up with for today.
All right. I amused myself or had fun going through the last year of basically blog posts that I have on deployment research and figure out which one was the most popular. And there are 3 kind of stands out. There are in the 5 digits, all of them in terms of views. But the winner was actually how to force reinstallations of applications in Intune. So I'm going to bring up that link as soon as I find it. Here we go. I can share my screen. I have a tad too many windows open at the moment, but here. This is not the screen. This was helping an organization doing some migration to BitLocker management, and for the second time now, not the same company, but the migration part. And whoever wrote this script that installs the portals, I'd like a word. It's room for improvement, put it that way. But that's a total sidebar. I wanted to bring up was this one here. Number 1 post in 2022. Quickly, a bit of PowerShell to force redeployments of applications. Very useful for testing or in trying to get your detection rules right and whatnot. So that was the number 1. The second one was a post that just downright refuses to die. I don't get it, but it's apparently a lot of folks are still building reference images, though it technically hasn't been needed since Windows Vista, which is just a while ago, 15 years or so, 16 maybe. But that one rounded up as number 2. And then number 3 is a post that has been in the top 10 for almost 10 years. MDT, private management.
Wow.
Posted in 2013. Sorry, 9 years then. So that's, yeah. Those are the top 3 posts of 2022. I have a little bit of work left, but I've been busy doing the ConfigMas videos over December, and my promise was to churn out 25 of them. I have done 22 so far, and that means I had to do 3 before the end of New Year's. I have to say I was maybe a little bit over ambitious, thinking how hard can it be to churn out a video every day for like 25 days straight. Turn out that Christmas is also, and December is a busy month. So I still have 3 to go, but I will be there eventually. But of course, these are often shorter episodes, specific topic. So if you want to have something for the watch now during the holidays, I'll say that's probably a good idea. So, anyway, yeah, that was the announcement that I have so far. All right, let's see. Any questions coming in, good sir?
Yeah, we've got a couple hellos. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So we've got a question coming in from YouTube. I want to know how to use the method in your episode 16, I think, presumably from ConfigMas here, so good thing you brought that up already, about cache. I have many issues with the user working remotely from home, so how can I help them using your cache method?
So let's see, episode 16 is this one here. this one, using a dedicated cache server for all sorts of delivery optimization content, primarily updates for Office for Windows, native component updates in Windows, as well as Win32 apps from Intune. This cache server is definitely not intended for home users. If I open up, not that one, but let's say this one here that I often have as a reference. If you have a bunch of users at home, they are connected to either internet directly like this, or they have a VPN connection into the office, a cache server does no good, really. Cache servers is more useful when you have, like in this scenario, where you have a branch office, you have a good chunk of machines that needs to download all these components, and we are often talking about 40, 50,000 files per year, a lot of content coming down. Of course, if they can pull it from a DP with a cache server locally, it's way better than having every client trying to reach out to internet to grab content over first a WAN link and then over an internet link of sorts. Obviously, reducing the WAN link or reducing the network impact significantly. For machines at home, they often have a pretty good internet connection. The content they want is on the internet anyway, so they just run tripping here instead of trying to get it from somewhere else. It doesn't make sense. So peer-to-peer cache servers, much more suited or tailored for when you have distributed environments like this, where you can take advantage of bringing content closer to the client. Of course, if you are like us, you have lab servers at home, yes, absolutely, you can spin up a cache server. So the 5, 10, 20 machines you have at home can get content from that one. But most, I'll say, normal people, they don't have that. They have 1 or 2 machines, that's it. And they don't really benefit from a cache server. All right. I hope that answered that question.
Cool. All right. We've got another one related to, I think, Windows 11 upgrades coming in from LinkedIn. So, question about Windows 11 22 H2 feature pack. 2 issues around this. XPS/PDF, native Microsoft keeping the upgrade from running, and they've been piloting this. They're seeing from the time it's kicked off via Software Center, download times anywhere between 4 and 5 hours and almost 2 days, then 45 to 50 minutes after reboot to actually run the update. Using native ConfigMgr, had to adjust the runtime on the feature pack to stop the job from timing out. Just looking for any help to try and speed up this process. And there was
yeah, go ahead.
A follow-up comment that they have a hybrid workforce, mix of always on VPN and traditional network.
I mean, if it's only about first of all, any type of upgrade to Windows 11 22 H2 is going to be a full in-place upgrade. There are no enablement packages or anything like that. And it doesn't matter. You go from Windows 10 to that platform, we're going from an early Windows 11 to that platform, is still a full in-place upgrade. And you can basically benefit or use the same type of tricks that you always have been using to do servicing of Windows 10 back in the days. For example, you can start to leverage sequences that you use for pre-caching. So you have one sequence that you push in advance. That the only job that sequence has is making sure that content gets downloaded to the machines well before it's time to do the upgrade, and also to make some basic validations on the box. And then you have a second sequence that you deploy that actually do the upgrade. That one you configure to run with high performance. So it switches the power plan in Windows and try to run as fast as it possibly can on the device. And since the content is on the disk already, it goes by quickly. It basically looks like this. You have your different sequences. like this one here that I use for validation. So let's pretend this one is for Windows 11 22H2 instead of Windows 10 21H2, because they look the same. Where you put in some extra validations on the machine, maybe some cleanup, and then when you deploy this one out to your test machines or machines that you're about to upgrade down the road, you make sure to deploy it so that the content is actually cached in the ConfigMgr client cache instead of downloaded it in the sequence cache, because guess what? That one gets emptied when the sequence is done, and we kind of don't want that, because then we have to re-download the stuff anyway. And then you have the sequence that does the actual upgrade. And this one, you also can have some basic checks, but you typically, that part has been taken care of already. And then you have the assessment, and this one is quite important to configure. This sometimes prevents some minor errors or warnings to just go ahead and continue that are okay. I've seen that for Defender installations, but I haven't seen that for the printer drivers. But what you can do when you have a sequence like this is that if you have a printer driver like the XPS driver in Windows 11, that seems to be the culprit here, according to the question, you can use PMPutil to remove that driver prior to doing the upgrade. And I've seen that from time to time, that there are drivers or services or something in the way of the setup that if you use the sequence, you can easily have them being removed, preventing the upgrade from failing. If you insist on using feature packages, which this question was originally to or from, you can still do some configurations from it. You can create configuration baselines. You can deploy packages out to machines that you have, for example, driver packages already out there when it's time to do the feature update. We've showcased this many times here in office hours, but Adam Gross and others, they have done some pretty good posts on setup config, INI configurations. See if this one here is the one I'm looking for. Yeah, where you have a baseline that configures this one, and you have other packages that make sure that drivers and whatnot are pre-staged in advance. Prior to here, even though you technically can flip it up to high, it's undocumented, but you can do it. You typically don't gain much. You gain much more by flipping the device over to high performance power plan. And that's something you can do with a baseline as well in ConfigMgr. This init file doesn't have an option for it. But if you don't like sequences, I happen to love sequences, but I'm also heavily biased. Usually when I find something that works, I stick to it. I'm too old to troubleshoot stuff. But properties on the sequence, in the advanced option, more options here. That's when you have the high performance power plan. But basically, get rid of junk on the machines, limit the number of profiles. Disk space is actually more important than you think, because the upgrade will go faster if there are more disk space available. If the system starts to run low on disk space, it starts to try to compress files and whatnot to survive an upgrade. So, but get rid of temp files, get rid of unused profiles, because the more profiles you have, the longer the upgrade will take. So a little bit of housekeeping, a little bit of performance plans, a little bit of pre-caching of content that usually allows the upgrade to go through as quickly as they can go through. I have seen the upgrades time down to 20 minutes, but those are rare. It's more likely, more average to be in between like 30 minutes to 90 minutes, and that assuming that the content is on the disk already. When we've been working with customers doing upgrades when people are at home, VPN connections and whatnot, it can take 4, 5, 6 hours to get the content down. And then we do the upgrade. And that's why we separate those tasks into 2 different jobs. So hopefully that can help a little bit.
Good deal. Yeah, and just Paul actually followed up saying thanks. So it sounds like you're definitely on the right track at least.
Sounds good.
All right.
See, there was one question coming in regarding updating an OS in a sequence. Yeah, this is something we have covered a few times in the series. I mean, I like keeping things simple. So if I can get away with it, if I don't need to make any changes to an image that I use, for example, for servicing or bare metal deployment or whatever, I usually just go ahead and download the latest ISO from Microsoft, and then I do that monthly, and then I export that, whatever that might be, to a WIM file. And then I go back to ConfigMgr and add that in. If I have a lot of active deployments, so basically you run this script to get a WIM file. And then in ConfigMgr, you have a few different options. So here I have my images. Here's one for Windows 10. I'm going to pretend that's the one I'm going to replace. This one has a data source, surprisingly, but it has a folder where it lives. You can definitely replace this file and just reload the information from it. But if you have ongoing deployments, they're going to break. So if you want to make sure that ongoing deployments can continue and you still update your images, then you simply create a new folder here, call it something clever, December, and you put the WIM file in that one, the new WIM file, I should say, and then you add that one in as a second OS image, and you distribute it. You wait until it's being distributed, and then you go back into your sequence, like my upgrade sequence here that I showed earlier, and simply replace that, select a different image. So in this case, an upgrade package if you're doing upgrades, but a bare metal if you're doing bare metal deployments. And if you really want to automate that, there are almost 1,000 now, or about 1,000 commandlets available in ConfigMgr. So you can script that entire operation. You can have a script that does everything from exporting to copying up to ConfigMgr, to add an operating system or an upgrade package, force a distribution, wait until it's done, and then let you know when it's done. And you can even have that one go in and edit the sequence when it's done. I prefer usually to do it manually, but there are PowerShell commandlets that allow you to edit sequences, even build sequences from scratch through PowerShell. So there is really not much more to it. The method that you usually use to create images, continue to use them. If you're using OS the Builder, fine. If you're using WinWich, fine. If you're downloading from Microsoft and exporting, fine. But it has to be a clean image. It cannot have applications in it if you want to use it for servicing. Those images can only be used for bare metal deployments. But it's as simple as adding it in, distribute, waiting, and then change the sequence to use that new image, and you're good to go. If you know that nobody's deploying anything, well, you can just replace the WIM file and update the DPs and be done with it. But most organizations, they always have some deployment going on when you least expect it. And it's kind of nice not to break it for them. And if you have a large distributed environment, even though the images are at least somewhat small these days, 4 or 5 gigs in size, if you have a lot of distribution points that you need to support, it can take a while to get the content out there, especially if your WAN links are a little bit on the poor side. That makes sense.
Good stuff.
All right, what else?
Question about policies for OneDrive. If I administer policies for OneDrive from Intune, can I sync more than just the standard documents, music, pictures, desktop folders? Then some follow-up context to that was my company was hoping that OneDrive can back up the entire C drive for legal hold reasons.
I mean, obviously you can add more folders to OneDrive to sync, but it was not really intended to be a complete PC backup tool. I do not use OneDrive for my entire PCs that I use. I have it for specific folders that I sync up there. For entire PCs I was using CrashPlan back in the days until I learned that they are purposely hard-coded and you cannot change this. They're removing certain extensions from the backup, and I found out that hard way. For example, .ini files, they don't back up. Yeah, a lot of my settings are in .ini files, so that was a bummer. So I switched over to Backblaze. It's one of the best backup solutions I know of. Cheap, fast, and I have that for all my machines. And but something like that. OneDrive is I don't think is a good solution to back up a complete PC.
Agreed.
Nor is Ghost. So yeah.
Agreed. I did happen to find the question did make me go look for some things though. And I did find a blog post that I have not tested this or even seen this blog post before a few minutes ago. But if you want to share my screen for a minute, Johan, it looks like there's a script here where you can add, if the question was in reference specifically to the known folder move feature that OneDrive has, where you can effectively redirect, documents, music, everything to OneDrive. This post has a script for adding additional folders. What I can't tell is if you can add your own custom folders, like, if you've got a temp directory on your C drive or something like that, or if this is just common, a larger set of known folders within the OS itself.
Kind of looks like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is something that I hadn't seen before. I didn't think there was any other way to manage this programmatically. In this, I think they said they've got it deployed via Intune as a PowerShell script. So again, I agree with Johan, backing up your entire PC with OneDrive, probably not a great solution. But if you do need to extend known folder move for some reason, this blog post may be of some help. So I'll make sure we share that.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I did bring up. So this was the backup solution I've been using myself for a while now, and it's really good. And they have options for unlimited storage, which I think they regretted when they signed me up. But I have a lot of VMs, put it that way. Probably about 300 or so. But yeah, there we go. So either I lost Andrew or he lost me. It's always an interesting, because Andrew went very quiet. And possibly go long in a live stream. Andrew did disconnect from my console here. And there he's back again.
So I think 5 p.m. the last 3 weeks now, something has happened. So it looks like I've got my evening cut out for me now to figure out what could possibly cause that. when everything else in the house is working at the same time.
Yeah, you never know.
Nope.
All right. Let's see.
I actually did have a question for you that I was starting to ask, and maybe you answered it when I dropped off. Backblaze pretty reasonably priced in your opinion?
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
good.
Cool.
It's not too bad. It gets a little bit more expensive if you need to back up like servers, because then you need to sign up for an S3 bucket and you need to configure PowerShell scripts for that. But it's not the end of the world. Storage is actually quite cheap these days.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else coming in?
Yeah, another question from YouTube. What is the PowerShell option from SCCM drop-down window? Is it the same PowerShell?
Okay. The short answer is yes. So this option here in the console is just, it shows a ready-made script to do the connection to the drive that has all the ConfigMgr commandlets. So for example, if you do this one here, it will show you that script, and you can go ahead and connect to your site. And once you have a site, you can start to use all the, all the various ConfigMgr commandlets that are there. There's actually a pretty good good chunk of commands in the configuration manager module. So if I do a listing of those, you can see there are quite a few. If I count them, 1174 commandlets to do stuff. But this I use on a daily basis. A lot of these different commandlets to do various things in ConfigMgr. Adding machines to collections, getting information about devices, do deployments, distribute stuff, deploy stuff. It's create packages and applications. You can do a lot of stuff through PowerShell and ConfigMgr. And if you can't find a commandlet to do it, you can typically do that through WMI, because that's how you did it back in the days. Sometimes you still have to do that because of performance, but other than that, it's Microsoft come a long way, making all these different commands available. But you don't need to start PowerShell this way. You can open it up like any script, and you can just invoke the same commands to connect it, to import the module and set the location, and you're done. All right. Any other questions?
Nothing else coming in at the moment.
Well, we still have a whopping 25 minutes to spare, so
quite a bit of time. I guess I could take this opportunity to mention, I think I mentioned last week, we've talked about MMS, the fantastic conference up in Minnesota every May. There is, I think last week I mentioned there is a new Discord server that was created for alumni of the conference and new attendees, things like that, and the community in general. There's a new custom invite link that's a little bit easier to read that was created after we talked about it last week. So I'll make sure I share that in our links as well for the week. It's just discord.gg/MMSMOA. So before we had that, I think it was just a random string of characters. So making sure to plug that server again. It's a nice lively bunch for sure.
Yep, indeed. No, I agree. MMS, fantastic conference. Good stuff. There was a question from Paul regarding these sessions. The MMS sessions are not recorded. Our office hours are. So obviously, wherever you consume them, for example, YouTube, the video is live at the moment somewhere. Here we go. And wrong channel. That's why I didn't see it. Here we go. Yeah, so that one was live right there. You can see this one here. So this is where we post all the links as well. They're usually up within 24 hours. And then we have also on the Academy site itself, on the office hours link here, we also share the links and whatnot, and also the upcoming dates for the office hours. So I hope I answered that question. All right, let's see. What's a question regarding the episodes? Not quite follow the question.
ConfigMas, maybe?
Episodes? Yeah, that could be the ConfigMas episodes. We mentioned them earlier in the chat here, but these videos were just the daily demos I did throughout the first portion of December. So they are available on our deployment research platform, and all the office hours are on our YouTube platform or channel for ViaMonstra Academy. But we'll put the link to these so you have them available.
Sounds good. We've got another question coming in from LinkedIn. Had an issue recently where my ConfigMgr database grew massively, close to 100 gigs, without any change to the environment. What would be the best place to start looking at the cause?
Without looking at the database, my best guess would be status messages that have a tendency to grow the table. Otherwise, it could be that someone was creative and extended the inventory quite a bit. That will also grow the table a bit, or tables a bit. You can take a look. There are some nice disk reports in SQL that will tell you a bit of the usage in between the different tables, and that can give you an idea on what's going on. But a 100 gig database for ConfigMas is nothing. I mean, even in my lab here, let's see what I might have. 30 gigs total, and I have like 200 clients. So when you start to see several terabytes, then it starts to be really big, but 100 gig I would consider perfectly normal these days. How big is yours in your environment, Andrew?
Probably about that, actually. Probably about 100 gig.
How many clients are you having it, give or take?
5,000.
Yeah. Yeah, so Richard, you can definitely look at the different tables and see what's being consuming most disk space, or what you have the most page counts in. That would give you an idea what's growing. But yeah. Any other questions?
Another one just coming in. How can I keep SCCM driver size low, especially logs and backup?
ConfigMgr does support data deduplication of the content library. So if you take your driver packages that you have, and first of all, don't import them as driver packages in ConfigMgr. Just create the Vim files of those packages. So then you would have something like this, where you have a folder structure with a bunch, not that one, wrong server. Try again on the right server. Here, a bunch of Dell packages in this case. Each of these packages, they are Vim files, and they will make up the storage, of course, but also in the content library. But if you enable data deduplication, you will find that even though those are already archived into Vim files, you will get another 50% reduction, because in between all these packages from Dell that are archived about 25 gigs in size, after deduplication, there will be about 12, 13 maybe. So you will save some storage on the server. It won't save you on backup unless your backup software knows how to do data deduplication, which some of them do. But most of them, especially if you do like a cloud backup or something, it will be the full size where they are stored, and also when they're transferred over the network in that case. We'll do it on the download to the client as space on the server. I usually don't worry too much. Disk space, as I mentioned, is fairly cheap. And even if you have a lot of models that you support, you rarely go beyond 200 gigs of drivers, give or take. I mean, obviously, it's data, but it's not unheard of. All right. But I mean, a bit of housekeeping cleanup makes sense. Also, as you are adding in new drivers, you can, of course, clean out older ones. And when you have models that you no longer support, if you start to remove those packages, then, yeah, gain some disk space back. Anything you'd like to add there, Mr. Andrew?
No, I think you've touched on all the main points for sure. Regular maintenance, definitely a good thing. I find, especially depending on how many people you've got in your environment, managing content, creating applications, or managing source content. Again, back to regular maintenance, make sure you're actually cleaning that thing up. I can't tell you the number of times that I've seen an environment with 10 different versions of Firefox and 20 different old versions of Office or something that they just don't need anymore. So that regular maintenance can go a long way.
All right. Awesome.
All right. So we've got somebody on YouTube looking into hybrid Azure AD join with Autopilot, wanting our vendor to do the pre-provisioning. Is it possible to do this without a VPN connection at the vendor? There will be no line of sight to our internal DCs at the vendor, no VPN tunnel. We assume that the user, when they receive the laptop, can power on the device and start the VPN to continue the process.
I have not done White Club together with hybrid join. I don't know.
Same. Nor pre-provision from the vendor either.
I mean, for normal pre-provisioning, everything will simply come down from Intune, and they will be enrolled or pre-enrolled or whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm.
And that speeds up the final piece when the user gets the machine and logged in. But at that point, all apps are already installed as part of the pre-provisioning piece. So I don't think they'll be able to make that VPN connection. I have a feeling, as I mentioned, I haven't tested, but if you want to do hybrid Azure AD join and white glove scenarios, that might be one of those scenarios where you need to have some sort of connectivity. But test, you'll find out. It's very simple to test yourself. Just bring up a machine in that state where it cannot see your domain controller and see how it behaves. It will tell you. My guess is no, but yeah. Someone on the call happens to know, by all means, please ping me here or ping us here in the chat, and we'll let the world know.
Sounds good. Another YouTube question: where can I find more information of driver packages in Vim?
You know, there is always one idiot that writes about it. Let's see. Speed, maybe. Yeah, I made a post a few years back about speeding up driver downloads. I gave an example for zip and Vim. Both examples here, but in general, Vim files is for the better. I recommend in general that is using the driver automation tool that we covered many times in these office hours. But it's a ready-made tool from MMSMOA Manager, or Maurice Daly and Nicola Anderson have been working with the scripts behind this for years, where you simply pick the models that you want, you hit download and import, and it creates the Vim packages for you. And there is also a script that will help you deploy them. So as it happens, I did actually spend, I forgot what day that was. Days in December is just a blur to me. Here, episode 12, as I go through the setup end to end on how to set up modern driver management to create Vim packages for drivers or drivers as Vim packages. So that would be a good episode to watch. And a transfer follow-up comment there from Scott. I've been using zip. From a download point of view, it's going to be the same. Zip file and Vim files have about the same compression algorithm, so the download time will usually be about as quick. However, what we found is that if you're using branch cache as your peer-to-peer method, if you're using data deduplication, Vim files are more effective. So that's why we're using Vim files. Plus, Vim files have that little tweak to them, is that if you use something from a Vim file, you don't need to extract it first. A zip file you will have to unpack no matter what. But a Vim file you can just mount and do whatever you want with the content, like running an installer. And so they're a little bit more effective and better, shorthand version. But the concept is the same. The concept of, instead of having a package with 1,000 small files that you try to download over an HTTPS connection, instead you have a single Vim file that you download that is quick. So, yeah. Great questions. Hey, 9 more minutes. Any other questions out there?
9 minutes is enough for a couple more, I think.
A few Happy New Year celebrations. Absolutely. Thank you. And the same to you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Appreciate that. It's the last time for the entire year to ask questions. No, was a bad joke. Good Lord.
Oh, that's a good one. Saw a tweet or something earlier today that was just talking about how the person couldn't wait to, get to the end of Friday and tell all of his coworkers, "See you next year."
True. Standing joke in the office.
Love it.
All right. I don't see any other questions coming in. Everyone that joined, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. We love to have you joining these sessions and come with questions, try to stump us. And sometimes you very much succeed. Sometimes we come up with a good answer. And thank you, Andrew, for sticking with me for what was it, 24 episodes now?
24. This was it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love being here. So thank you for having me along with you.
All right, then. We are saying thank you again. Happy holidays to everyone, and see you next year then.
That's right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your week and your year.